I have made thousands of dollars investing with M1 Finance and Cashapp. Yes, Cashapp has an investing portion to it, but which one is better? What are the pros and cons between each of them? That is a question we are here to answer. Let's go ahead and break it down. I'm going to answer one question up front. No, neither one of these apps are paying me for this video. They should be, but they're not. Cashapp, in fact, has never paid me for any video. They really should, but I'm going to just give you the pros and the cons. Also, it's important to note that I was a financial advisor, so I'm using that lens too, and I'm approaching it as if I am someone who's new, a beginning investor. Which one is better for you if this is the first time opening an investing app and navigating it for the first time? All right, so let's start off with the pros for Cashapp as I see them. It's easier to use in my view. I have had relatives, people I have met, and say, hey, I want to dip my toes in, I want to experiment with investing. What's the easiest app to use? I argue that it is Cashapp. We'll talk about the cons to it because no app is perfect, but there are a lot of people who have it, and it's you just get in, type in the stock that you like, AAPL if it's Apple or something like that, you pick buy, and that's it. You're done. You have invested. And that's all you really have to do. It's extremely easy to use. I would say it is perhaps the best app for beginners. Again, just to get your toes wet, just to start, okay? Also, you can gift stock. I think that is very cool, and there aren't too many apps that do it as easy as Cashapp does. This is assuming that they're on Cashapp to begin with. I've done videos on how to do all of this here on YouTube, and in terms, there's like a little gift option where you can log in, and for example, I think in that video I gave my sister some stock for her birthday, and say, hey, look, I like NVIDIA, for example, or I like Microsoft or something like that, and give them $20 worth of a stock, which is very cool, especially to get someone interested. There are a lot of high school kids who just graduated. What if you gave them their first stock? Very cool, very interesting, and again, just to get them interested in starting to learn about the stock market, I would argue Cashapp is probably the best, easiest way to start. However, on the opposite side of things, what are the pros for M1 Finance? I would argue that M1 Finance is more comprehensive. It is not just an investing app. They have a savings component. I think they even have like a credit card component. There's a retirement component. You have, IRAs. You can do a lot more things and check way more boxes when it comes to M1 Finance. And that can eliminate a lot of clutter in your phone, right? You've got, a banking app. You've got, your savings accounts. You've got your investing apps. You got another app for your retirement accounts. Why? Well, you can just consolidate it and put it into one place. That is one of the advents or one of the cool things about M1 Finance. The other thing too, it is better for automation. This is one of the things I absolutely love about this particular app. It was built for automation. What I mean by automation is you pick your stocks and it kind of creates an investing pie. You can also choose one. Say I want 80% in stocks and 20% bonds. You can pick it and put some money in there, and every week, every month, whatever schedule you want to choose, it will continuously invest in that, and you just sit back and do nothing, which is cool. However, you can also choose your own stocks and make your own pie, if you will. But here's a really cool part. You guys know when I talk about, once or twice a year, I go through and make my adjustments and make sure that you are properly balanced as all things should be, as Thanos would say. Well, quick time out. I know we've been talking a lot about investing today. However, if you don't know where to start or you haven't started yet, I have a free guide on how you can buy your first stock in just 20 minutes. To get that free guide, check out the link right here. All right, back to the video. M1 Finance does that for you, right? So if you have 5% in a bunch of different stocks and one stock takes off and one stock falls, M1 Finance will go back in and balance that stuff for you. Will buy and sell and do all the math for you so you don't have to. That is amazing, and it does it in a tax-efficient way. I'm not going to nerd out and go through all the math and formulas and stuff on how you would do that, but back in my day, when I was a financial advisor, I would have to do that, or there would be a computer program that would have to do that, or you're going to have to use a spreadsheet, or I guess now ChatGPT, if you want to trust ChatGPT to do it. M1 Finance does it for you, and that is really, really cool. Cash App does not do that for you, though there's an option to continuously add money to a stock, and that's called dollar cost averaging. But if you choose a set of stocks together, it's not going to continuously balance them. So if you say 20% in this, it's going to stay at 20%, which is very, very cool. And that is truly set it and forget it, which I would argue is one of the best features out there. And there aren't too many apps that do that. Now, what are the cons? What are the cons between the two? Because, as I mentioned earlier, no investing app is perfect. The cons for Cash App: it doesn't have all the stocks out there. I would argue that most of the stocks that we care about, the ones that you can just name off the top of your head, are likely going to be on there. That is usually those in the S&P 500, the largest 500 companies in the United States. The ones that you're thinking about right now: Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, maybe United Healthcare. I'm really thinking of the largest companies in the S&P 500 right now if I were to run down. Maybe Nike, popular brand names. Most of those are going to be on there. But if you're thinking of something really small and niche, it might not be on there. Cash App does not have them all. The reason is Cash App is a peer-to-peer payment system. It is built to send money from person to person, and it just so happens to have an investing app on it. That's it. Let's be honest. It just happens to have it. And I got curious, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, like, what is this squiggly line? And said, oh my God, there's an investing app here, and made a video about it. And that is how we're here. I don't know anybody who knew that prior to it. I'm not saying I discovered it. I don't think I did. So I'm not claiming discovery of it. But I don't know too many people who knew that as a wide fact that it was there. Okay, so that is something that you do want to note. 2 things that I didn't mention in the pros. Yes, Cash App does have crypto. Currently, as last time I checked, they do offer Bitcoin. Pro for M1 Finance, that offer Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as well. So do note that. Other con: there is no auto rebalancing feature here. So as I mentioned, a pro for M1 Finance, you're gonna have to go through and pick and choose what you want to sell, how you want to sell it, and all that kind of stuff. Now, I do have an auto sell feature in that, hey, if this stock drops to a certain level, you can sell that. I've done a video on how you can do that, but most apps have that, and we call that a limit order. All right, so it triggers at a certain limit. If the price comes down to $15, then sell. Almost every app has that, right? And if it doesn't, I would argue you should get a different app. But it's not gonna do all the automated stuff for you and keep your portfolio in a nice, neat order. You have to go in and say, I want to sell this, I want to buy this, and you kind of have to do it on your own unless you are going to do dollar cost averaging, which again, most apps do have that too. But that's really it. That's really it on the con side of things, at least from my perspective. If you are just looking from a high level, I'm just starting to invest side of things. And no, they don't have the comprehensive, Roth IRAs and things like that. It's just a regular brokerage account. You just buy and sell stocks. Once you sell, you are subject to taxes in that year. At the, they'll give you what's called 1099. You take that to your accountant or H&R Block or whatever. Or they even have you can file your tax on Cash App if you decide to do that. But that's it. That is just very plain, very simple. All right. So what are the cons for M1 Finance? Well, there are some fees. There can be some fees depending on how much you have with M1 Finance. Those fees may be waived or could be lower. The reason why I'm not telling you the exact, it's $10 a month, $15 a month, whatever it is, because fees do change over time. And what I don't want to do is say the fee is $5 a month, and then a year from now, 2 years from now, they change it, and now the video is outdated, and people are yelling at me in the comments. Just know that fees are there, and fees may vary, just like prices may vary. But do always read the fine print on what the fees may be. There are no fees to buy and sell stuff on Cash App at this point in time, but there are for M1 Finance. Now, I would argue that, and again, they don't pay me. They don't. And there are no links for either one of these apps in this video. But what are the cons for M1 Finance? There are fees. Now, I would argue that the fees provide some level of value, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. However, fees do vary, and if you add more money, those fees may drop, right? Or be waived. However, the reason why I'm not saying the fee is $5 a month, $10 a month, or what have you is because fees do change. Fees vary all the time, and I don't want to instantly outdate this by saying the fee is X amount and then next month they change the fee again. Or there's a promo rate and things consistently change. And I got people yelling at me in the comments and saying, you said it was X amount and now it went up. Okay, just know there are fees and read the fine print at whatever time that you check out whatever feature you are looking at. Okay, but just know there are fees, and for Cash App, currently there are not any fees. And for all the time that I have been aware and been using Cash App, which has been at least for almost 5 years, I have not seen any fees. Now, when it comes to fees though, the question is not am I getting charged a fee, it is am I getting more value for that fee? Okay, I don't mind pay, like for food, I don't mind paying for food. I don't mind paying a lot for food. The question is, am I getting a lot of food, and is the food very good? I will be very angry if I pay for food and it's terrible. That's the thing here. Okay, so paying for M1 Finance or paying a fee for M1 Finance and I get to automate my stocks and I don't have to go through and make those adjustments and it will sell for me and I don't have to worry about it. If that is of value to you, then I would argue that the fee is likely worth it. The question is, what is the fee at the time that you are looking for that? Or is that something that you are confident in doing for yourself? That is the question. That is totally up to you. I would argue that where I am and what I'm doing and the money that I have on the app, I would say that the fee currently is worth it. Now again, I'm not getting paid by any one of these apps. You can look in the description right now. Ain't near one of these. I ain't got no links for near one of these. Okay? Nobody's paying me. I'm doing it for y'all. That's all I'm doing it for. All right. Next, for cons, I would say I don't think that M1 Finance, as currently constructed, and apps do update. They do update quite often. Isn't the most user-friendly at jump. Now, I was a financial advisor, so I am used to, investing in stuff and using apps. And there are some apps that are much easier than others. And I totally understand that. And there's a reason why I have 50 million apps, because y'all asked me about them. It took me some time to understand how to create my own investing pie and which one worked and which one doesn't. I will give them credit and say there is a way that you can schedule with someone and they will walk you through it, which is very cool. But again, I don't like friction. I want to be able to on day one, get in here, use it, and not need a 20-minute YouTube video. I don't want to have to call somebody to say, hey, I made a mistake. How do I delete this pie and start over? I don't like that frustration. I don't have to wait. I don't want to wait a day to get something fixed. Okay, that's not to say that the app is terrible or anything like that. I think there's a lot of very good value there, but I do not like some of the friction pieces. Maybe I just pushed the wrong button and that was just my own personal experience. Would love to hear some thoughts down in the comments. Also, I made my own custom investment, so that I probably made things more complicated to be transparent. I went and picked up some stuff and added some other stuff. So again, that was probably on me, but there are some pre-made investment pies that you can go through and easily just select, pick a schedule and buy, which may make it a lot easier. But again, I'm telling you my experience. But for some, because there are so many things there, you've got, your cash account, you got the investing account, is it the IRA, so on and so forth. It could be a bit overwhelming for someone who has never done it before. I would argue it might be something worth working up into after your first year, right? Or after your first 8 or 9 months investing, perhaps, depending on what it is you want to do and what your experience level is, right? Now you know the pros and the cons between M1 Finance and Cash App, but which one's going to be right for you? There are other apps that you might want to consider, as well as some stocks that you might need because you got an app, but what do you invest in? You want to know what those other apps and stocks might be? You want to check out this video right here.